Hello everyone, I'm Project COE staff writer Justin Joseph, here to give you our thoughts on Soul Calibur Legends for the Nintendo Wii. Okay, so the game is meant to basically tell the story of Siegfried's transformation into Nightmare, but it's kind of weird because it doesn't really do that. Most of the actual plot entails all the characters that are involved in the game just pretty much whining about the grief that's caused by the presence of Soul Calibur and Soul Edge in this world. I mean, the game itself actually starts off pretty cool. It just unfortunately starts to slowly tank for a number of reasons. The first downer is mainly dealing with the visuals. The warriors, the actual Soul Calibur characters, are more or less on par with the designs that you see in Soul Calibur 3 for the PlayStation 2. I mean, they're moderately detailed, they animate nicely, although it's kind of weird that Lloyd from Tales of Symphonia kind of runs with his swords in a very strange manner. But the rest of the game is about as good as maybe the first franchise entry, possibly even worse. It just really depends on how you see what's on your screen. The environments that you fight through are varied. It's just unfortunate that they're very bland and just full of muddy textures. The enemies are a little better. They're just seen a bit too often. I mean, at least they include the Berserker, Lizard Man, and Assassin, the sort of generic unlockables from previous Soul Calibur games. But other than that, you're pretty much just seeing, skeletons and just really other generic enemies, and it just doesn't really help the presentation. On the audio side, it comes with some nice voice acting, at least with Iska, who's one of the male characters, who's actually done by the actor for Edward Elric from Fullmetal Alchemist, and the Masked Emperor and Siegfried are also very well done, although the other characters could have certainly used some work. The music is all of pretty much 2 repeated themes, both of which are decent sounding, but one just sounds a bit too happy-go-lucky for me when it comes to the happenings that would happen on a battlefield. It just didn't really fit it too well. And the effects are more or less standard. Even the attempt to add immersion through the Wii remote isn't really anything impressive with the actual weapon swipes and stuff like that. Just not a very impressive showing all around. And the same, unfortunately, also extends to the gameplay. The waggle mechanics really aren't bad, as the translation is a good deal better than games like Dragon Blade, which we reviewed before and absolutely sucked on the Wii. But it's still not really where it should be. I often struggled with the game differentiating between my vertical and horizontal transitions, and alternating your attacks in mid-combo is very tough, which sort of makes you do pretty much the same 3 hits every time. But the biggest flaws are really quite a few things, actually. It's kind of unfortunate here, too. The camera is pretty much just broken. You can't control it. I mean, you do to it at a very minimum level, but essentially you cannot control it, and it always manages to be in the wrong places at the worst times. And that actually helps to result in some cheap deaths on your part. There's also a lack of checkpoints through some of the stages, and even though most of them are fairly short length, the ones that are in the latter parts of the game tend to be kind of longer and a bit more difficult, so it doesn't really help whenever you're pretty much doing the same thing, which I'll touch upon here in a little bit. And there's also no potential to revive your allies if they happen to fall for whatever reason. It's kind of lame. And that repetition, you do pretty much the same thing, and none of the gameplay really changes for 10 to 15 hours. There's really no evolution to your combat skills. There's nothing to really unlock except for, superficial, cosmetic weapons. It's really nothing to be impressed with. And even the party mode, which is the game's multiplayer offering, just isn't all that interesting. And especially because what plagues the quest campaign is even more noticeable in the co-op versus or Soul Edge Shard Collecto Fest. Yeah, there's 3 different things you can actually do in the party mode, but they're pretty forgettable, and most people won't even really care to check them out whenever they play this game. So basically, what Soul Calibur Legends is a victim of Namco trying to ease the frustration of Nintendo fans not getting Soul Calibur 4. But they rushed the project for whatever reason, and it just didn't end up working well. I mean, I definitely would have suggested that they spend a lot more time with the project, and I mean, even if they just released it simultaneously with Soul Calibur 4, and given a lot more polish and tightened up the gameplay mechanics, I would have been all for that. But they did what they did, and they have to deal with the ramifications. And for that reason, Project COE gives this game a 6.2 out of 10. So if you would like more information about the game, please view my text review on our website. And as always, hopefully you enjoy what I brought to the table here today. And with regards to a recommendation, I would just rent the game like I did, and that was pretty satisfactory on my part. So hopefully you found this review informative, and thank you for your time as always, and look for my next video review later next week. Thanks, guys.